I've been making fabric masks for a couple weeks. I've been working on getting them together, and I have one pattern that I like to use the most often. It has a pleated front so that you can adjust the size. It has a pocket so that you can put in a filter, and it has tie straps that pull through so that if you don't want to use the tie straps, you can switch it out for elastic or put it back in. Plus, it makes it easy to clean when you can take it apart and put it in a lingerie bag or something to clean it. So, what you need are 100% cotton fabric pieces. They need to be tightly woven so that if when you hold it up to the light, you can clearly see through it. You probably need something that has a little higher thread count than that. But most 100% cotton works. You want to avoid something that has lycra in it, because when it stretches, then it's not going to be as useful because you're opening up that weave. So I have just some basic sizes that I use. I start with the main body of it, which is 7 by 14 inches. And what I've done here is I've started on the short side, the 7-inch side. I made just a little hem on both sides. I also have two pieces that I use to make the slides, the pockets on the side, and these are 4 by 5 inch. I made two of those. And then I make my own ties, and I use between 24 and 30 inches of a strip cut in about an inch. And to make that, which is the most time consuming part if you're going to make the tie, when you start this, you fold the end over just like that. And then you take a quarter of the side and fold it in, and the other quarter so they meet in the middle. And this is much easier to do sitting down on your table. And then once you make a shape that kind of looks like that, you just fold it over on itself and put a pin in it. So that's how you're going to start. And you'll do that through the whole strip. And then I'll show you how it looks with the pins in it. So you start folding 1/4 over, 1/4 over. You fold in the end before you do it. It keeps you from getting that a ragged end that will unravel and give you like a fringe on the end, and it'll start to come apart. So you just fold in about 1/2 inch, and then you're going to stick a pin in it. And if you lay it flat, you just push in 1/4, 1/4, and then when they get together, just fold them together in the middle like that. And you put a pin in it. I try to pin it every inch or so, so you can see how that's working. See if I can get that to focus there. All right, and you'll do that through the whole length. Then, starting at the other end, the way your pin is going, you wouldn't want to start this way, feeding it through, because your pin is pointed in the wrong direction, and you want that edge, the folded edge, to be to your left, so that you're sewing down the right side of it here where the two flaps are. So once you have that all sewn together, all pinned together, you can feed it through and you can sew it just like this. So you see, I sewed it right along that edge with the two folds so that the one folded side is clean, and that's fed through my machine with that one folded edge on the left, and the two folds are on the right, and I sew very close to that edge all the way down until I have a nice long strip. So once I have my two ties done, I can assemble the face mask. So I put one of my edges that I've sewed here at the top, and I put it just like this. I lay the other edge right up to it and then fold it over. So I have about 3/4 of an inch of a fold. It's an envelope. So this one is not, they're not right up to each other. There's a little flap so that when you have it in there, something will keep that filter from coming back out. So I usually sew my right side first, so I will pin my left side. Again, I'll do about 3/4, half an inch to 3/4 of an inch. I'll just put one pin in on one side just like this. So I've folded my 14-inch piece. The 7 inches is across the top. And I'll just make sure that it's laying flat, that's laying even. And this is the side that I'm going to sew first. And it'll make, you're not going to sew these sides together yet. You're going to sew the top first. You're sewing it into that envelope first. So I'm going to put it right up against the foot. I put my foot down, and I'm going to run it right along the edge of the foot, which gives you about a 1/4 inch seam. And hopefully this won't knock the phone all around. And I'm going to finish with a back stitch. When you start and finish, especially when you're doing the ties or the finished edges, you're going to do a back stitch at the beginning and the end, because that will secure everything. So the reason I pinned, so I've sewn this side. So the reason I pinned this side is because I'm feeding it backwards, upside down through the machine, and I want that to stay where it is. So again, I'm going to put it right up under my foot. I'm going to follow the edge of the foot. That gives me about a 1/4 inch. Don't forget to take the pin out. And I'm going to finish it with a back stitch. And I usually only do about 3 back stitches. If you have a loop when you pull it out, pull on the thread, tighten the loop up, give it a little snip. So now I have this packet. Sides are done. See? So now we have this. I'm going to lay the flap that I made down, and I'm going to start folding my tucks here. They're like pleats. And I do my first one at about an inch with about a 1/2 inch of fold. See if I can't get you to focus here. There you go. Now I'm going to put a pin in it. I like my pin to stick out pretty far for when I start to put the sides on. Okay? I'm going to lay it flat before I do the other one. And I have a block on my table so that I can make sure I'm keeping square edges. And I do the one across from it. You can measure these. A lot of people are measuring them. I've gotten to the point where I'm making a lot of these, so I'm kind of eyeballing them every time. But there's my first one. I'm going to come about halfway up. I'm doing about a finger width fold, and then I'm going to fold it back up. So you end up with 2 folds, and my folds go up. So if you can see here, there's the first one, and there's the second one, and they're both about 1/2 inch. And then there's my top. Before I do pin the other one, I lay it flat. I make sure the sides are even. So you go from about 7 inches to about 3 when you get this part. I don't know why I keep going out of focus. So then you have these 2. So again, my flap that I made is on the back. So I have the front of the mask facing up. I'm going to take one of my pieces that is 4 by 5. I'm going to lay it front side facing the mask like this. You want to have about 1.5 inches on either side. You see? You can pin this. I'm not pinning it, but that's because I've been doing them enough that I know what I'm doing. I'm going to lay my foot down right here and make a 1/4 inch seam just across the parts that are folded. Don't forget to take your pins out. I usually put the fabric under the foot first, make sure everything is laying flat and not getting caught on anything, and then I pull out my pins. I'm not going to do a back stitch on this one. I'm just going to start it, and then I'm going to do a back stitch when I get ready to cut it off. I just put in a new bobbin, and that guy is jumping around in there, and I don't know why. Probably need to oil my machine. It's been getting working a lot of overtime. So now I've sewed this one on right here. I'm going to turn it over. So there's the front. But you can see that. I'm not going to go, I'm going to fold it down just a little bit so you can see it on this side. So I folded it down just a little bit. And make sure that it's straight. So I folded it down like this, you see? I'm going to lay it flat and I'm going to fold the 2 sides in. I folded the 2 sides in. And then I'm going to fold up till that raw edge goes almost to the edge of the mask underneath. If you can see that. Once I have that, I'm going to fold everything up to meet those edges that I just folded in. So it makes a complete cuff around and it's clean. You could pin it now, and I'm going to sew right along there. But notice my edge on this side is the same as my edge on this side, which is a little lower than where the actual seam is. So I'm going to sew that together, but this time I am going to use the back stitch when I start and when I finish. So go in, back stitch, go all the way across, and my back stitch. I'm going to cut off the end here. There is the finished end. I'll do the same thing on the other side, and just to make it ready to be worn, although I would recommend washing these and washing them often when you are using them, I'm going to take a little safety pin. I'm going to stick it into, I'm going to stick it into the end of my tie, feed it through, and you just got to make sure. Sometimes you do catch that end in there, and if you do, just pull it out and try it again. It'll work till you can see the other side, the pin come through the other side. And then if I can get this guy through here, and there's my safety pin. I'll pull that through, take that off. Looks like a little bit of that came out. It's okay. If I was making these to sell, or I was making them to be, I had more time to make a lot, then I probably would be a little cleaner with some of what I'm doing. But this gets you going. You can see where my back stitches are. That helps keep it secure. And that's it. So if you want to make that kind, that's how I do it. This video I think has taken me about 15 minutes, but it takes me about 35 or 40 because I have to make these. That's the most time consuming. The rest is pretty quick. So if you made this and you had a piece of elastic that was that size, you could loop it through and then fold that over and sew your seam, and you would be ready to go. You could also just feed through some elastic and tie it off if you wanted to, and then you'd at least have the mask part if the tie is not what you want. But this should withstand several washings, and it should provide you, you know, what you need out of a mask. So I hope that helps, and I hope you guys are enjoying all this extra time that you've got